Well, good evening and welcome to a Loaded Mag special. Welcome, firstly, to my guest, and I'm sure at some point a few other NUFC people will be dropping onto this because I know Daz is mad to come on and say hello later on. Welcome to my guest, Adam Beckett of the Newcastle United Supporters Trust. Obviously, myself and Adam go back a good bit. We were on the original Internationals show with Steve Wraith. So it's great to have you on, mate. Long time no see. We did have a little chat in the green room, for want of a better word, beforehand. So welcome to Loaded Mag, the first and probably the only NUST member, board member to come on and chat to us, because we don't warrant enough for anybody else to come on. But I did text you. We were kind of chatting beforehand, probably before the trust announcement, and I'd asked you to come on and have a chat all things Newcastle, and you kindly agreed. And then obviously when the trust, the 1892 pledge came out, I said to you, look, can you still come on? And you went, absolutely. And I went, can you do me a favor and not talk to anybody else until we've spoken to you? And you went, yeah, absolutely, mate. You got my word. So fair play to you. You have kept up that side of it. So how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me on. I do want to say very quickly, I've said it privately to you and the other guys, but I just want to say it publicly. I think it's fantastic that you guys have launched this channel. I wish you all the best in the world, and obviously anything that I can do from all the way over here in America, I'll happily do. But I think the shows are great. Obviously, the team you've put together is fantastic as well. So congratulations to you.
Thanks very much, mate. It's good to hear. We'll take every little bit of help. So on the trust, what I want to do very quickly is we will play one of the trust videos, and then what we'll do is just get you to talk a bit about it, what it's all about for those that don't know, what it means, what the trust are trying to do with it. We'll fire any questions that we do get from anybody that's watching. I've got a couple of questions to throw at you, and we're going to probably do 15, 20 minutes, if that, on that. And then we're going to talk about the good stuff. We're going to talk about today's result, obviously a win for Newcastle away at Burnley, and then we'll have a look at fixtures and where we think we're going to be. So we won't do too much. So we'll play the video and then we'll come back in.
Shearer,
Super Mac,
Andy Cole,
Old Jackie,
Mickey Quinn, best striker at St James Park, no doubt.
How man, not this again. Mickey Quinn never played for in the first division.
What's the crack with his pledge scheme then? Who's behind it?
How man, you must have heard about it. You're not on Twitter.
Aye, but I only need to watch the Mickey Quinn goals. Do you know how many goals he scored for the tune?
It's a supporters trust behind the scheme. What they're saying is that when the club's sold, we need to be ready to buy your share in it.
Oh, aye.
Aye.
How will it do that then, mate? It'll be kind of pricey, that, like.
No, it's a long-term project. You can do your direct debit to hire in as much as you want.
So is the idea to get thousands of fans paying little to save a lot?
Spot on. The club should be run for us, and elected fan representatives working with new owners to make sure we're never getting this kind of mess again.
Has anyone else ever tried this, like?
Loads have done it to save their clubs. Hearts have raised 11.5 million doing this exact same scheme, pledging little each month, and they're about to buy their club.
Wow, that's class. How much do the trust want to raise then?
Few million quid at least, but they also want to be ready if we get relegated, and relegate again like the Mackhams did. There's no harm in being prepared.
Read. What's the call again?
The 1892 pledge. Just get on the website. It's dead easy.
Sound. What happens if it doesn't work though? Like if Ashley never sells, or the new lot aren't interested?
Then all the money raised will be given to local charities, and they've appointed 4 gadgets to look after the money for them.
So worst case scenario, be a couple of quid a month going to charity then?
Aye. Best case is we want a little bit of the club if it's sold in the Prem, or a larger part of it to your Leeds.
Ah, you can count me in then. Tickets due for a tenner a month. We have to agree on one thing.
Mint. Away then.
Whoa,
Mickey Quinn,
man.
Newcastle's number 9. None of the others even fit to lace his boots.
Well, you haven't mentioned Sir Les, so it didn't start that again. Get yourself pledged, then we'll talk.
Fair enough, mate. 1892pledge.co.uk. Aye?
Aye. Get in, mate. Tell your mates. Keegan!
So there you go. My little fella loves that video now.
That's
I've seen
right.
it once or twice. It is very good. So what's it, for those that don't know, obviously obviously there's been plenty out and about on Twitter. We've seen other podcasters have Alex and some of the other guys on. They did a live question and answer. So for anybody that doesn't, or if you've been living under a stone in a black and white shirt, what's the idea of it, and what's the trust looking to do?
Sure. Great question. Luckily I've been answering this question for about 3 days now. So
here's one I made earlier.
Yeah. So the 1892 pledge is a very ambitious, fan-driven attempt to position ourselves as fans to one day own a stake in Newcastle United. It's a long-term plan. It's not like we're going to do this overnight. But there are so many examples of clubs all around the league. Obviously, you heard about Hearts there in the video. Sunderland is another excellent example. Bolton, Bury, Chester, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
About fans that wish they got themselves organized sooner. And that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to put ourselves in a position now so that one day in the future, we may well be in a position to own a stake in the club. Worst case scenario, whether the new owners come in and they're not interested in this money or they don't need this money, all the money goes to charity. So if we stopped this thing right now, if we paused it after 3.5 days, we'd be able to donate £50,000 to Northeast-based charities. So that was if we stopped it right now. So we're really excited. We realize it's very ambitious. We think we've got a good opportunity to do this with our fan base. Most passionate fans in the country, most passionate fans in the world, if you ask me, living over here. And we're excited about it. It's been a tremendous start. The rollout really couldn't have gone any better, in my opinion. To be at 50,000 or 48,000 and change in less than 3 days is truly tremendous, and massive credit to all of the fans of Newcastle United that have got involved, all of the people doing podcasts and YouTube shows that have helped us get the word out, obviously the Chronicle as well. And all of the Guardians that have been willing to take part in this as well. So we're incredibly proud of where we are, and we realize there's a long way to go, but it couldn't have gone better.
Okay. Obviously, looking at it from, I suppose, from Twitter and looking at some of the other podcasts and stuff, there seems to be some buy into it. There seems to be some who are against it. There seems to be some that are kind of middle ground, for want of a better word, and not really, fussed either way. So from the trust perspective, obviously, I'm a trust member. I pay in. I am a trust member. I want the best for the club. Why now? Why is the timing now?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, why now was mostly to do with the fact that it was ready to go now. It wasn't like we planned 2 years ago or a year ago to launch on a specific date. It was more around aiming to get it out as soon as possible. So a lot of work has been going on, obviously, in the background for the last 2.5 years with the trust since it relaunched in 2019. I joined the board last year towards the end of the summer or fall, I believe. So I've been on it since then. A lot of work's happened in the background to get it to this point, and this point was just when we were ready to launch it. So I don't know if there was necessarily a date in time where we were like, yeah, this is the perfect time to do it. But obviously there's a lot going on at the football club. There's no bones about it. There's always a lot going on at Newcastle. We're always either at the very top of the roller coaster or at the very bottom of the roller coaster.
Exactly, yeah.
But if we had waited to get back to the very top of the roller coaster, I don't know when that would have been. So people have asked me, does this mean the takeover is any closer to happening? Is there some sort of reasoning behind that? There's absolutely no reasoning behind our timing in terms of the takeover. Obviously, we'd all love for the takeover to happen today or tomorrow or next week. But it's not related to that in any way. It's not something we timed out strategically. Again, it's more about just the fact that it was ready to go now. We took a lot of feedback. We did focus groups with almost 1,000 fans. We did a couple of calls over here in America. And Alex and the folks in the UK did a whole bunch of focus group calls. Got, like I said, feedback from 1,000 or so fans. And we also reached out to sort of key centers of influence, people that do podcasts, people in journalism, former players, obviously, as well, to make sure that we got enough buy-in from them and enough feedback on how to do it. We also worked really closely with those folks at Hearts that's been mentioned in that video there. We got a ton of great feedback from them on how they did it, what challenges they came up with, what lessons did they learn, what do they wish they could have done differently, what they, really proud of that they did. And we tried to leverage as much of that as we could into our launch earlier this week.
Okay. And I think Hearts have got up to now, they've raised something like 11 million, I think it is.
Yeah, almost 12 million from about 15,000 people pledging. So the key is the really important part of this is that monthly pledge element. So pledging once off is obviously fantastic, and we're incredibly grateful to everyone, about 3,500 people already that have pledged, whether it was monthly or one-off. But being able to project out where we're going to be 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, based on the monthly donations or the monthly pledges, is what's going to be the most important. So whether it's £5 a month, £10 a month, £25 a month, that's what's really going to set us apart. And the Hearts lads were really strategic about the relationship they had with pledgees, that if they did it one time, they really sort of reached out and built a personal relationship about getting that monthly donation. So 15,000 people pledging monthly to get to £12 million is unbelievable. And you know, we're hoping for them here in the next few months, they'll own a majority stake in their football club, which would obviously be tremendous. And now that's not necessarily our goal. I think something that's been thrown out a lot over the last few days, I know you and I were talking about it just earlier, is that whole 1% strategy, 1% of the club. That's really not our goal. That was a minimum baseline that we wanted to have out there so that somebody could sort of use it as a measuring stick.
Use it as a bar, yeah.
The key about the 1% for me is that no one really knows what that 1% is, right? I mean, we've talked a lot on shows that you and I have been on, and a lot of people in the media talk about what's Newcastle United really worth. Well, the only number that matters is what Mike Ashley thinks it's worth, because he's the current owner, right?
And that could change depending on how the season pans out.
Change in a couple of months from now. But also, Mike Ashley's owned Newcastle for 13, 14 years. It's basically been for sale for about the last decade. He's only found one group in that time willing to pay his actual asking price. That makes you think that it's probably not worth what he thinks it's worth. It's just that he's got one buyer who's willing to pay that.
Exactly. And I think that's why he's fighting as hard in the background, you know, that there have been other groups interested, but he wants to keep that deal. Quick question there. I've got a couple more questions, but we've got one there from Carl that's come on screen there. How did you guys choose? How did the trust choose the 4 guardians? How did that work?
Sure. So we had a couple of criteria. First, obviously, we wanted passionate Newcastle fans, right? That goes without saying. We also wanted to have some professionals. So one of them is an accountant for obvious reasons, right? They're handling, we hope, a very large sum of money. We wanted someone with sort of national footprint. So Ian Mearns, the politician, good friend of other shows that we've been on as well. He's a big Newcastle fan, but he also has sort of a national footprint with his voice, if you will. And he has expertise that, frankly, the other ones don't. George Culkin, obviously from The Athletic, huge Newcastle United advocate. Again, another person with national presence and a real passion for fan-based support, right? He's always been very vocal about that. And then Warren Barton, mostly because he's just an incredible guy. He's a huge Newcastle fan, obviously a fan favorite. I got to meet him just recently virtually when we've been doing this work together. And the passion he has for Newcastle United is frankly unmatched in any experience I have. And again, he's been very outspoken about the fact that the fans deserve better over the last couple of years. So we didn't have a huge amount of criteria. It was more about getting the right professions, the right voices, and a sort of the right mindset around the people that we wanted to have as guardians. Great question, though.
Okay. One of the other things that has been, obviously, with Alex has kind of, spoken about it earlier on one of the other pods. Some people, it's been back and forth on Twitter. Obviously, the 1%, that you can say, okay, well, what does it? If we get to that 1%, what does it get us? Does it get us a voice on the, in the club? Does it get whatever? For my opinion, it probably doesn't get a voice from Mike Ashley, because I don't think he's really bothered about what the fans do. I think we need to be realistic. But from a point of obviously prospective owners and stuff, did the trust reach out to the consortium to go through this with them? Was there any contact? Because there seems to be a bit of conflicting, depending on what you read and what you look at in particular in social media, that they weren't contacted from the trust and that they're unaware of it. So can you give that any clarity, Adam, whether they were contacted or not contacted?
To give it a little bit of clarity, I have to be a bit careful with my words. So I think the confusion was about the sort of 2 different tracks. So the consortium that's currently most publicly interested in the club, they were not made aware of the launch of this scheme.
Okay.
That being said, in the past, they were made aware of this concept and asked for their feedback and their reaction and whether they'd be at all interested in that kind of thing. So
okay,
it's sort of two different questions, right? It's like some people have said, were they aware that this was happening this week on Thursday? The answer to that is no. Were they aware that this was coming, or this was an idea that the trust wanted to enact, wanted to get involved in at some point? And the answer to that is yes.
Okay. And did they make, again, without dropping you in it or you putting yourself in a position, did they make any comment to that? Were they in favor of that? Not in favor? What did they, was there anything from them directly to say, yeah, listen, lads, we think it's a cracking idea? Or what was that feedback from them?
Yeah, again, without going too far, but they were certainly very keen for fan interaction and believed that the fans were the most important thing about Newcastle United. And as a lot of people have said on shows like this and in the media this week, that they are acutely aware of the fact that the fans are the most important part of this club.
Don't mind my family as they pass through the background there. Yeah, everyone's getting ready. Kids are all back to school tomorrow, thank God.
Yeah.
All right, hang on, we got something here. So there's one from Daz. Daz is obviously watching, you know Daz well. How are you finding your short time with the trust? Is it what was expected, and has it been demanding with work, family life, etc.?
Yeah, great question, Daz. The short answer is that it has been what I expected. It has been a lot of work, but it sort of comes and goes. It's sort of, you know, sometimes it's very intense. Like we've had 3 board meetings this week. Naturally, right, because this is the most important thing the trust has ever done. I actually just got off a board meeting before I joined this call. So the volume of it is up and down. Sometimes we'll have multiple meetings a week. Sometimes we'll go a whole month without having a meeting. But it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I did some work with the club's foundation around mental health that I wouldn't have been able to do, obviously, without access through the trust. So that was phenomenal. And just getting to know fans. I mean, more fans reach out to the trust these days, I think, than they do to the club, because the club hasn't been responding to anybody. So whether it's about season tickets, whether it's about fans getting back into stadiums, whether it's around the club shop, there's so many things that the fans of the trust or members of the trust come to us hoping to leverage the trust to get answers from the club because they're not able to get them themselves. So I've really, really enjoyed it. Obviously, being 6 hours behind you guys means that I have to sort of schedule things out a bit more carefully. But a good example of how we've used that to our benefit is this week, since we launched this pledge scheme, we've had a lot of interaction from across the world, particularly here in North America, where we've had, 50, 60 pledges already in the last couple of days. And I've been able to reach out to all of them personally, whereas the lads and lasses in England, that's very hard for them to do with being 6 hours behind. So it's definitely been a great experience. I've really enjoyed it, getting to know those guys. And, I think the fact that we've launched this scheme now is what the trust will become this scheme, right? That was always what the trust, really any supporters trust, should be driving towards, is leveraging their potential as best as possible to get a seat at the table. And with 15,000 members, I think we deserve that seat, and this is our way to get it. Okay.
And do you get much interaction or anything from the club direct to the trust at all? I don't even know why I'm asking that question. It's probably a really stupid question, but I suppose it is a question that maybe people watching might ask. Do you get anything from the likes of Charlie or anybody else, or is the interaction between the trust and the club non-existent or very little? What's that situation like?
Well, again, it sort of comes and goes. So it's certainly not non-existent, and they will take feedback from us really at any time. So we were very vocal about the poor run of form we were on. We not only because our fans or our members felt it, but we felt it as a board that we needed to make a statement to the club. So we made a statement to the club, gave them feedback on the run of results, gave them feedback on the risk of being relegated and that kind of thing. And we have had meetings with them, absolutely. They're not as regular as we would like, but we do have meetings. We do have communication with them. The challenge is taking it on to the next step, right? It's one thing to take all the feedback that we can give them. It's another thing to sort of enact change that feedback. And that would be the logical next step, right? Was to build a relationship with the club that's better than it has been in the past, but then leverage that relationship to make positive change.
Okay. So we've kind of done 20 minutes. I don't want to talk trust all night because I know obviously you obviously have that crest on your polo there, and your first love is obviously the club. But just before we kind of switch onto the club and today's game and kind of where you think we might end up, anything else you want to say just while people are watching regards to trust and the 1892 pledge? You can kind of have the final word on it.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, just a massive thank you. I mean, it's blown my expectations out of the water to be at almost 50,000, which if they think about it, that's the home attendance for a game at St. James's Park, right? So to fill that with pledges in less than 4 days is tremendous. To the 3,500 or so people that have pledged already, a massive, massive thank you. I would just warn people and rely on people to remember that this is a long-term thing. So again, there's going to be ebbs and flows, right? When there's big news around the club, we think there will be a surge in pledges, good and bad news. Just remember that this is a long-term thing. But we're incredibly grateful for the support and very, very happy with the way things have gone in the first few days. And I guess the last thing to say is if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, if you're not committed yet or you're not convinced yet of the basis of this or the benefit of this, just reach out to me. Obviously, I'm on Twitter. You can reach out to me via the trust as well. I'll take questions and calls anytime about this because I think it's such a tremendous initiative that we've started.
Yeah, and if you can't get in touch with Adam, get in touch with either me or Daz or Chris or Richie, and we'll get in touch with Adam and we'll make sure that any questions and any feedback gets out to Adam and the guys. Just talking on support, I do quickly want to give a shout out to our Loaded Mag sponsor, Centre Ale, located in the heart of Central Station there in Newcastle. Purveyors of fine craft ales, beers, and other spirits. Bruce and the guys out there look after us. We got some giveaways coming up with them over the next while. And obviously, we also then have Mind, Body and Soul, who look after us on the channel, who, as you know, deal with all things around mental health, putting people in touch with those that they need to be put in with. They do offer a range of merchandise. Kendra, who was on the show earlier on, won herself a very nice T-shirt, the one I'm wearing this evening. It's not the same one. We didn't swap it at half time. I've got my own. But they do go on. They are www.mindbodysoul.uk. They are non-profit. Everything that they do on there, all the proceeds go to charity. So just drop on, help out. So that's the sponsors. So obviously we played today. Did you watch the game?
I did, yeah. Got up at 6 o'clock this morning, but it was second half was totally worth it. I almost didn't bother watching the second half, to be honest with you. I was so disappointed in that first half. After any momentum we got coming out of that Spurs game was totally lost in that first half. We looked like the typical abject Newcastle away game, which I dread every week, the away games, because we're usually so poor. But, second half, those substitutions really changed it. Makes you wonder whether, could they have gone from the start? I don't know. I'm not in training every day, but, St. Maximum just changed the game completely. Callum Wilson actually didn't do very much at all, but I think just the presence of having him on the pitch
creates a bit of space and a bit of carnage.
He does. He changes the game. He's such a different striker from the first two. I felt a bit bad for Dwight Gale. He could have had that goal. Great save by the goalkeeper in the lead up to the non-penalty, which was mind-blowing. I mean, I was absolutely fuming at how that wasn't given as a penalty. So here
it is here.
Oh,
now, obviously, if you looked at the two games, if you looked at our game and then you looked at the foul that was given on VAR this afternoon by McTominay, who managed to just lightly brush his fingernails against Son's face, and VAR gave that as a foul. But yet that, to me, is a clear high foot with, for me, Longstaff being denied an opportunity of a header. Absolutely no foul given. And yet 30 seconds down the other end of the Burnley game, there is a foul given for a high boot and a card. So for me, there's a lot of talk. People are talking about, should referees be mic'd up? If you look at rugby league, you've got TMO, you've got everything else. But for me, that one there, was that a penalty, Adam, for you?
It was a penalty all day, and frankly, it should have been a red card as well. I mean, if you think about it this way, you know, a lot of people are saying if it happens anywhere else on the pitch, it's a foul, it's probably a yellow card, game goes on, no big deal. But if that had been given as a penalty and a red card, I don't think VAR would have turned it around.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I would agree.
Stuck. If it had been given the way we think it should have been given, I think it would have stuck. So it was a penalty all day for me. I mean, it's mind blowing. I've not seen anyone defend that yet. And the fact that the league managers or the league referees association came out and said that he stooped his head and the ball was won first. Well, I don't think you can win the ball and then kick a guy in the head and it not be dangerous play. So I don't think the fact that he won the ball a fraction before he booted Sean Longstaff in the face makes any difference whatsoever.
Constitutes, yeah, exactly.
When you're 6'1", 6'2", and you're heading, you know, you're projecting your head towards the goal like that. That's not stooping your head. That's going down below your waistline, which you obviously didn't do. So ridiculous decision. Had it impacted the game at full time, now you're talking about that Aston Villa situation last year where the ball went over the goal line. Had they gone down because of that, had Newcastle gone down because they didn't get a point out of today,
it has massive consequences.
Massive financial and moral consequences there. So it's a problem the league has, no doubt about it.
We do have Mr. Shocks here in the background, does want to come in, so I will let him in. He you know, some nights he says he doesn't like doing these shows, and then other times he doesn't give me half an hour to do me on. But we will bring him on to chat while we chat a bit more about Newcastle. So we'll add him in. Good evening, Mr. Shaughnessy. How are you?
Hey, Martin. Hey, Adam.
Hey, mate.
Thanks for coming on, Adam. I said I'd come in here in the second half and really change the game. You needed a bit of a spark.
I wouldn't necessarily call him our ASM, but however, we'll bring him in. Where do you? Obviously, I'm using Daz's pictures. So obviously, Murphy took his goal well. He obviously finished off well. I think he's been really playing well. Obviously, contract time coming up. Would you give him another contract, Adam?
Well, I would, because a couple of reasons. One, it's cheaper than replacing him, and Newcastle are rubbish at replacing players usually. So it's cheaper than replacing him. But I also just like his versatility. You know, he gives us options. He's playing wing back at the minute, which he's not natural at. It's not something he's done before this run of games or this season. But he can play right or left wing as well. So again, it's about the versatility he offers. He's going to get better as a player. He's probably got less than 30 Premier League games under his belt, I'm guessing. So he's going to get better as he gets more exposure to the team. He's never going to be on everyone's team sheet. He's never going to be an unreplaceable player like St. Maximum or Wilson or Dubravka, but he's a very, very useful squad player. And frankly, given the way Mike Ashley does transfer business, he's just not someone we can afford to lose because of that versatility. So yeah, I'd give him another contract, absolutely, and I hope they do.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing there, I suppose, is that they could potentially sell him on as well if they give him the contract, just like they've kind of done with Richie and Shelby. They don't want to lose him for nothing.
Yeah,
and the same with Gale. Really, it's an asset, isn't it?
Gale as well.
You know, a lot of people give out about Gale getting an extra contract, but really, if you look at it, and we spoke about this, Daz, on a few of the shows, it's actually a very good bit of business because, you know, if we don't use him, fine, we can sell him on. We get a fee for him because one of those clubs that do go down, you know, hopefully it's not us, but a Fulham or a West Brom, you know, probably for 4 or 5 million fee, take White Dale, who's, you know, is a proven goal scorer in the Championship. If we do by chance go down, you know, we probably keep a hold of him and try and get back up. Obviously, the VAR didn't help us. Burnley took the lead, and then shortly after half-time, still 1-0 down, we change it up. ASM comes on, Murphy scores, and not too long afterwards, ASM does a bit of a Ben Arfa, takes a lovely midfield pass from Shelby, and runs the complete length of the pitch near enough to slot it in past the Burnley goalkeeper. Now, a few people have kind of put different clips up on Twitter of the Ben Arfa goal and ASM. Now, I'll give my opinion on it. It's nowhere near as good as Ben Arfa's goal against Bolton. Just my opinion. But was it what's your view, Adam and Daz? Was it a good goal? Was it Ben Arfa-esque, or was it, you know, just a good goal?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first, Daz. I mean, I know why people are comparing it to that Ben Arthur goal. I totally understand the comparison, but I actually don't think, and I'll watch it again, and in case I'm wrong here, I don't think he actually beat a player until that last turn. I think they gave him
backed off
so much space. I mean, you could see what he was going to do. It's the same thing he did against Burnley in the game at St James's. He ran right at them, right down the middle. They backed off, and he cut back onto his left, and he scores. Whereas Ben Arthur in that goal against Bolton during that incredible season, gosh, I think he beat 3 or 4 players before he got to the box, and then he goes in between those two at the end, and so it's not a fair comparison. I understand why people are doing it, but that Ben Arthur goal was top
something
10
different
I've seen, I think.
Yeah. Daz, what's your take on that?
I agree with Adam there. Yeah, Ben Arthur's goal was 1 in a million, really. But yeah, just with ASM, I was on Match Day Live earlier, and myself and Kieran, I think was they were shouting, "Pass it to Wilson, pass it to Wilson!" Yeah. Like that was the obvious thing to do. But then, yeah, they did give him loads of room, and they didn't think he was going to shoot with his left, and goal. So we're jumping around the place, but delighted with the victory.
We'll take it. Yeah, it was a good 3 points. Obviously, league-wise, this is what it means. I will just get rid of the banner. 2 seconds. So obviously, Sheffield United, West Brom, Fulham still in the bottom 3. Newcastle now with the win today, 6 points ahead, and still have a game in hand. As Daz said earlier on the kind of wrap-up show, that's also pulled in the likes of Brighton still and Burnley into that mix. So, maybe 2-3 weeks ago when Steve Bruce said there was 6 or 7 in the mix and there actually wasn't, there is now. So maybe he was just able to see into the future along with his 2 back-to-back wins that we got in the league for the first time this week. But so it's obviously looking a lot better with that. But where do you think we are, Adam? Are we safe? Not safe?
Well,
what do you think?
Safe. We're not safe, but from Fulham have got 6 games left. Are they going to get 7 points from those 6 games? I mean, I know one of them's against Newcastle last day of the season, but are they going to get 7 points from those 6 games? I don't know. I mean, I know they've got a goal difference of, I think, 1 better than ours, but that could change in 1 game. So, I've always felt that. I've always felt that Newcastle's best chance of staying up was that Fulham didn't get enough points. It was going to be more about Fulham not getting the points than it was about Newcastle getting enough points. So, I don't think we're safe yet, but we're a hell of a lot closer than we were before this round of fixtures. I think if Newcastle get 4 more points, it's going to be almost insurmountable. Fulham would then have to get 12 points. They'd have to win half the games they've got left. So if Newcastle gets 1 more win and 1 draw, they'll be there. But I'll tell you what, on before the Fulham game, I was dead certain we were going to get relegated. I mean, I was just resigned to it. I have been for months, actually.
I've been like that, to be fair. I have been quite pessimistic.
I had come to peace with it. I was ready for another season in the Championship. I was everything that comes along with that. But it's amazing when there's a 3-point difference like that. What 1 round of fixtures can do to that league table. And you're right, it does pull down a couple of more teams, and then you're looking at their results and their fixtures as well. And today's result, sorry to just keep going about it, but today's result was so important because of the run of fixtures we've got between today and Sheffield United at home in the penultimate game. It's a brutal schedule now until that game, really. So getting a win today and Fulham losing, just you can't even yet fathom how important
it's a massive 3 points. I think me and Daz were talking just off air before you dropped on. I was saying I think Fulham need 9 points. I think they've got to win their 2 home games and probably at least 1 away game. As you said, certainly 7 points as a minimum they need, because they've got to take 7. We've just got to keep bettering their results, or at least matching them to stay ahead. But Daz, what's your view on it, mate? After today's,
My view is, yeah, you touched on it really. First of all, that like I know Martin, you've have said we're going down for the last little while, and Adam, I saw you on Twitter saying as well that we're going down, and
I was like that. I was very much like Adam. To be fair, I had kind of gone. Do you know what? I actually don't care anymore. I kind of like the championship. We might win a few. I'm happy with it. If we go down, we go down. We stay up. It's an added bonus. So very much like Adam, I kind of made my peace with it. I was like, I don't care anymore. So
for me, it was the danger then that we'd lose the takeover if that happened. But and I myself dipped into that thinking as well in that 3-0 defeat to Brighton, and I was shouting for Bruce to be gone again and change the manager, or else we're going down. That's what I was saying. But now it's amazing how difference what a weekend makes, like the Fulham Wolves game and today. I also agree with Adam. I think we need 4 points. And I would hope that we could get 1 point from the next 5 games, because they're 5 difficult games. I know that in the show before this, a lot of people were saying that they thought we'd get something from the West Ham game, as in like they thought we'd get a win. I can't see a win myself. I could see potentially a point or a point coming from one of the, maybe an Arsenal or City, even City, if they've won the league, that they'd put out a weakened team. But a weakened team from City is still a pretty decent team.
Still a good team. There's the fixtures there, lads. So obviously we've got West Ham next, followed by Liverpool, Arsenal, Leicester, Man City, Sheffield United, and then the penultimate game, Fulham away, where Fulham will have their 10,000 fans, and we won't have any. But again, Fulham have got Arsenal and Chelsea, 2 away games, their next 2 games, followed up by Burnley, Southampton away, Man United away, and then us at home. So I think Fulham will struggle to get points. I think you would. I know it sounds really bad enough. If you are a Fulham fan by chance, you happen to be watching, I do apologise, but you would like to think today that result that we got has dented them a bit further in a week where their heads went a bit after the Wolves game. So I think we have got some tough games, but I think there's still a win in there somewhere. But
you think about those Fulham players coming into training on Monday, having lost in injury time to Wolves when they didn't really deserve it, and then seeing Newcastle come back and win today. And then you come into training on Monday and the boss is like, all right, we've got Arsenal away and Chelsea away next 2. Really looking forward to it, lads. It's like, that's demoralizing, isn't it? To lose a game like that and then see your relegation rival win a game like we did today. So, if you look at that last 4 games there for Fulham, if they still need 7 points from 12, right? Even if Newcastle don't get any points, if they need 7 points from 12 with those last 4, they got Man U in there, they got us in there. It's going to be a tough order for them. You think about it this way, the gap from us to Fulham is only 1 more from West Brom to Fulham. So, like, what are the odds that West Brom finish above Fulham? That's the same as saying, what are the odds that Fulham finish above Newcastle? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. And it's actually worse for Fulham to Newcastle. So again, 7 points for Fulham is going to be tough, even if we get 0 points. So really, if we put any more than 3 on the board, is going to be very, very difficult for them.
And we've got our strongest players back now, so with ASM and Wilson, we are looking. We don't want to say it, but it is looking an awful lot more rosy now.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, that was the lineup today. So with Dubravka in goal, Murphy, Fernandez, Clark, Dummett, Ritchie, Shelvey captain. Obviously, I won't even talk about captains. Most people who watch these pods know my view on the captains and my regular saying, so I won't get into it. Longstaff, Almiron, Joe Linton and Gale. For the next few games that we're starting to get people, obviously we've got Wilson played his time today, so Maximum came on, played well. We've still got Manquillo there. You've got Willock that was dropped despite scoring last week against Spurs. I actually felt a little bit sorry for him that he wasn't in there today, because I thought he probably deserved to be in. But looking at today's lineup and then looking at obviously some of the fixtures, Adam, who's your starting 11?
Well, that's a good question. I was just going to make the comment that I can name 6 people on that lineup that I would rather have as captain than John Joe Shelvey. So Dubravka, Fernandez, Clark, Dummett, Ritchie, and Sean Longstaff. I'd rather have any one of them as captain than John Joe Shelby. So that we'll save that conversation for another day.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't start me off now about captains. I get enough. I said very early in the season, I kind of had a bit of a rant. I went, I'm sick of Lascelles, not my captain. And I've been tweeting that out for weeks now, not my captain. And I've taken any amount of grief on Twitter for slating Jamal Lascelles. Even when he scored his 2 goals, I still tweeted out, not my captain. And I took a blaze of abuse for it. But he's just... I'm not even going to get into it. He's just not the captain at the moment. But what's your 11 then? What's your best 11 then to see out some of these games to try and grab something?
Yeah, I mean, let's just assume they stick with this formation, right? They've got 4 points from the last 2 games. If you start changing formations, it'll get confusing. But I think that back 5 probably the right back 5. Paul Dummett is not a true left back or a left wing back. He's a left central defender. Kieran Clark had a bit of a nightmare today, but he's usually pretty sturdy at the back. And then Fernandez, same, very, very sturdy, little bit risk or a little bit error prone today, but generally pretty solid defender.
Made some good blocks as well, though, that second half.
Oh, yeah, I mean, certainly guys at the back there that are willing to throw themselves at it. And I think Murphy deserves to stay in at right wing back. Why we named 2 right backs on the bench and not Matty Longstaff or anybody else, frankly, is beyond me, but that's for another time as well. And then in the middle of the park there, Sean Longstaff has been excellent in the last 2 games. I think he was tremendous today. Didn't get enough credit because there were other players that did really, really well. But on another day, he would have been man of the match. He was everywhere. He started on the left of the 3. He ended on the right of the 3. He was throwing himself at the ball, box to box. I thought he was tremendous today. And he should have had a goal or a penalty from that header. And then John Joe Shelby's going to be the other one because he plays every game. So he shouldn't be, in my opinion, he wouldn't get in the starting 11. He was better today. His range of passing was better for sure. He got an assist technically for St. Maximin's goal. So I'm sure he'll stay in the starting lineup. He probably wouldn't be in my starting lineup, but I definitely wouldn't pick Jeff Hendrick, and Isaac Hayden's out injured. So maybe Willock and Longstaff don't have enough experience in a relegation fight. So I can see, I guess, why Shelby's playing. And then it's obviously the front 3 is the front 3, right? It's Almiron, St. Maximin, and Wilson. Nobody else should play for the rest of the season in front of any of those guys as long as they stay fit. Having Dwight Gale come off the bench helps. A couple of other options as well. But the team sort of picks itself if we're going to stay in that 5-3-2 or 5-2-3, sorry. I feel a bit sorry for Jamal Lewis. I think he'd actually be pretty good as a left wing back. When he's a left back on his own, when we're playing a flat back 4,
he's not a defensive back. He needs to be further up the pitch past the halfway line.
Yeah, he gets very exposed, partly because he gets no protection from St. Maximin or Almiron usually, but he's not a true defensive left back. He is more of a left wing back. But we really need whatever it is that Matt Ritchie has, and I can't quite define what it is. We need it right now. In the long term, we don't need it probably. If we're ever going to get better than we are now, Ritchie's probably one of the guys that doesn't start a lot of games. But for right now, for this run-in, we need that level of determination, guts, whatever it is that he's got, we need that. And we just don't have the freedom to develop a player like Jamal Lewis right now. That's just the reality of the situation. We need experience and error-free football, and Ritchie gives you that right now at left wing back.
Yeah, agreed. Does.
Yeah, for me, I
starting lineup.
Yeah, not similar to what Adam said. Keep the keeper, keep the back 5 the way it is. Manquillo is a good option to have as well, but no, I would definitely keep Murphy there where he is. He's not going to switch out Shelby, and he'll be our captain until Lascelles comes back. It's Sean Longstaff. Definitely up there today in my top 3 players today. And then, play ASM and Wilson. For the next 5 games, I think that it'll be 5 at the back. And he'd be playing trying to get a draw. And I don't blame him, really, because I'd be delighted with a draw in any of those 5 games. And then go at it, go more attacking obviously against Sheffield United and Fulham. But hopefully we get something out of those 5 games, and then I don't want it to go down to that last day of the season that Fulham get surprise us with some kind of results, and we're 2 points ahead of them or something like that. that would be a nightmare. It'd be very difficult to sit through that game. But hopefully we can be safe by that time.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, a couple more questions coming in. So one from one of our regulars, Julie. Apart from family and friends, what do you miss most from home, Adam?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, it really is family and friends. I mean, I've actually lived in the States now, Julie, almost as long as I lived in England. So I moved to America when I was 18, and I've now been here. This is my 16th year here. So a couple of years from now, I will have flipped over, having lived longer in America. I do miss my family, particularly in the last 18 months or so during COVID, because I haven't seen any of them. My parents, my family are lucky enough to be able to get over here 2 or 3 times a year, most years, usually to see the grandbabies. They don't care much about me anymore, but we haven't seen them in so long. So I really have missed my family. I'm really hoping that later this year, particularly my mum can come over. That would be great. And to see my dad and stepmom as well would be fantastic. I miss other things. I miss going to Newcastle games. I miss watching a lot of football. We get a lot of it over here, but it still feels like a foreign sport, if that makes sense. So I do miss watching the football on the Saturday and Sunday. I miss going down the pub and that kind of thing. But I don't miss that much about it. I mean, I think a lot of people just assume that I would miss home a lot. And other than family and friends and Newcastle, I don't really miss that much about it. I have a wonderful life over here. I'm incredibly blessed. I have 2 beautiful kids, a beautiful wife and home. So it would be hard to say I can miss anything when I'm as lucky as I am.
Very good. Yeah, I suppose the same for me. I've been over in Dublin now 22 years. So yeah, this year takes me past longer than living in the UK. So yeah, it is very, very similar. Lucky I've got a good family. You do miss friends and not being able to get the games as much. And even though I'm only 40 minutes on a Ryanair from Dublin out to Newcastle, it's still as hard. You may as well be 5,000 miles away because it's just as hard to get home and try and see people, and obviously COVID and everything else. Chris has got a question from Adam. So here we go. We get the takeover we all want, and you're only allowed to upgrade only 3 positions in the summer on the pitch. Which 3 positions need to be upgraded the most, in your opinion? Now, bearing in mind, we've got about 15 minutes left, if that. So thanks, Chris, for not putting that in earlier, because you were obviously late, probably eating your dinner or whatever you were doing earlier on. So there you go. Where do we upgrade if we get a takeover? Great question.
I mean, we really need... We've got 15 centre-backs, it feels like, but none of them are very good. So I think we need one really, really good centre-back that we can build the whole back line around. We've got an excellent goalkeeper, but we really need one truly great centre-back. And then we really need a true link-up man, someone between the midfield and the forwards. I'm not totally convinced that Almiron is going to be a really good number 10 in the future. He's going to be one of these guys that moves across the front line and can be very effective sometimes, but we need a very consistent, creative number 10. And then I'm not sold on the right backs again, even though we've got so many of them. I would love to have a top class international fullback at the club as well. I think we've got good strikers, or at least one good striker. We've got good wingers in Maxi and that group, and Almiron maybe, but certainly a centre back, certainly a central midfielder that can create and link up the play, and then probably a fullback as well. Great question, though. Could do a whole show on that, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good idea. Now, Daz, what would you do if we had the money? Who would you bring in, mate?
Yeah, only 3 positions. Yeah, I'd go two centre midfielders and a striker, and leave the back. I know we need to improve in the back as well, and the right back position. But yeah, 2 centre midfielders, box to box one for sure, and a more defensive one or something like that. But and I know you have someone to partner with Wilson as well to bang in the goals. At least then when Wilson gets injured or something, we have someone else to rely on, pin our hopes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd be similar. I think goalkeeper wise, we're okay. I kind of agree with Adam. I'd like to see a real top class, old fashioned centre half, a real commanding, a Maguire or even the likes of. I know he's doing a decent job for Leicester, but even somebody like a Johnny Evans or someone like that just gives you that stability, has the experience. Midfield. I don't know whether necessarily box to box, but Daz knows this. I've been shouting out all season the young lad that plays for West Brom, Gallagher. I really, really like him. I think he's got an absolutely massive engine. Gets himself around. Is not afraid to tackle. He's young, and I think would fit really well with the front four we've got. And then a striker. And for me, he played against us today. I'd love to see somebody like a Chris Wood, Premier League proven, scores goals, good in the air. Reminds me of Shearer-esque type player, and that he puts himself about. Can defend, but is also really good up top. And I think would probably be somebody that might link very well with the likes of a Wilson for me. So, yeah, that would be mine.
The hardest part of Chris's question is only having 3, right? Because the reality of the Newcastle squad is that it's broadly an okay group of players, but there's no, other than St. Maximin and probably Wilson, there's no sort of irreplaceable player. No. So you've got all of these areas that you're just like, yeah, Richie's okay, Shelby's okay, Lascelles is okay. Like, none of them are totally rubbish other than Joe Linton and Kraft and 1 or 2 others. But there's also no one that you'd be like, I can't live without this guy. I've got to have this guy, other than Maxi and Wilson, probably.
Yeah. We do have a bar of players, but it's not a very high bar.
Exactly, yeah.
It's kind of like it's a mid-range bar at the moment. We need to gradually lift it up.
The bottom 5 group of players, probably.
Yeah,
and just your selections there, Martin. If with takeover money, I'd be setting the bar a bit higher for those.
Well, I would, but I'm just going. If that didn't happen, but you did have a bit of investment, I was just looking at who are players that I've seen this season that I think could come in and do a job and strengthen. If you look at Shelby and probably even Matty or Sean, I think the kid at West Brom, Gallagher. I just think he's just the 2 games we played against him this season. He was outstanding both times for them. I just really, really like him. Tom says there, would you get rid of Joe Linton in the future? I think that's probably a foregone conclusion, is it? It is. Chris is coming in with the questions now. He's pushing me to the time limits here. Another question. What do we do with the goalkeepers? Dubravka, Darlow, Gillespie, Woodman in Swansea. For me, he says he'd cash in on Darlow while the stock is high and bring back Woodman. Any thoughts?
Yeah, this is going to be the problem in the summer again, isn't it? I mean, until Freddie Woodman is going to be our number 1, we have to keep loaning him out because we can't stop his development. So I'm really glad they signed him to a 3-year with a 1-year option, because it means we can do that again this summer. And maybe it's to Swansea again. Maybe he plays a whole year in the Premiership with Swansea, which would be a dramatic improvement on his development. So there's 4 goalkeepers, right? Darlow, I agree. If we're going to sell him, now's the time to do it. But he just signed a 5-year contract. So he's not likely to go anywhere. He's going to be the backup again to Dubravka. And he'll get some games. He'll get 10 games a year. Gillespie, I think, is just happy being up in Newcastle. He's a local lad.
He's happy COVID's coming to an end. He can get out. He can hit the quayside. He's loving that.
He reminds me of Rob Elliott, who I loved as the backup goalkeeper, because he was just happy to be there, right? Every team, whether it's in profession or whether it's in sport, every team needs that guy who's just happy to be there. And I think that's Gillespie. So I'm not too worried about him. So really the only thing is you've got to keep loaning Woodman out to either Championship or Premiership level, so that when he is ready, he comes straight in as number 1. Dubravka moves to the side and we go from there.
Cool. Yeah. There you go. Daz, will you get rid of him?
I looked at this before. I remember for one of our match day lives, going back months ago. But Darlow isn't as young as you might think. I think he wasn't far off Dubravka's age, and they both have contracts that run out pretty much at the same time. So yeah, I'd sell Darlow and cash in, and I'd have Woodman as number 2. And if Gillespie's happy to sit there, let him sit there and try and bring someone. We always have brilliant keepers in Newcastle. There's probably someone else coming through that's going to be up and coming now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's all the questions I think we've got. We will do this because I know Daz will tell me off afterwards if I don't. Just obviously those who are watching tonight, obviously like and comment. We've got a good few watching there this evening. We've had some cracking questions coming in. So thanks for watching. Like and comment. Get onto YouTube and subscribe to the channel. As Adam said there before, we've gone off. We're doing our thing, and we're trying to put some good content out there every night for you, where we can, where families, jobs, and kids allow. But we're going to keep those coming. So yeah, thanks for watching. And as we close towards time, last couple of minutes, I suppose, Adam, really, from me and Daz, I'm sure, listen, thanks very much for joining us. Absolute pleasure to have you on, and giving us the lowdown on the trust and everything else. And look, we'll keep promoting and anything you want to put out from the trust, give us a shout. And at some point, I'm sure we'll be delighted to get you back on as things progress. So I suppose from Loaded Mag, that's really us. And we'll give you the last word, just to give the trust the pledge 1892, one more plug.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, if you hadn't heard about it until tonight, or if you have heard about it and you haven't been sure yet, just go to the website, 1892pledge.co.uk. Check it out. There's a massive amount of information out there. There's a great FAQ section. So go check it out. Again, if you're not convinced yet, or if you're just not totally interested in it yet, we completely understand. But we really, really do appreciate the 3,500 people that have been a part of it already. It's been fantastic. So really, really appreciate you guys having me on. I'm happy to come back and talk about football with you guys absolutely anytime. It's been a real pleasure.
No worries. Yeah, well, we'll try and organise the shows
to
make sure we suit your time a little bit as well. So we do appreciate you coming on. Obviously, I'm massively grateful the fact that you stuck to your word and you gave us an exclusive. So I'm really, really chuffed with that. It's a big coup for us. Only doing the few shows that we do. So look, keep in touch. We'll play out with our outro. Adam, if you want to just, I'll drop people off screen. If you want to hang back, we'll have 5 minutes when we finish up. But for me, it's good night. Daz.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Adam, for coming.
Absolute pleasure.
No worries, guys. We shall play out. If I can find the video, it's probably way down the list now. Jesus. All right. Good night, folks. We'll see you during the week. Good night.